Y'all glad to be here this morning?
Yes.
Y'all ready to get going?
Yes.
Good. I'm glad to have each one of you here. Thankful to those of you who are watching online. We're very thankful that you're joining us for church as well. We're currently working through a series entitled "'Tis the Season," and in this series, we're hoping to refocus ourselves on the true meaning of Christmas. Right, church? Yes. All right. So, 'tis the season for Lil Debbie Christmas trees. Come on. Come on. Look at it. Golly day. Raise your hand real quick if you like Lil Debbie Christmas trees. Okay, basically unanimous in the building. Well, we have a fantastic surprise for you, church. This morning we wanted to bless each of you, and so we have some servers in the back who are going to give each one of you a Lil Debbie Christmas tree real quick. If you will, servers, make your way. I'm just kidding. It wasn't in the budget. It wasn't in the budget. We couldn't do it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You should have seen some of your faces, though, man. Hopeful. Some of you looked so happy the minute I started to say, I got a surprise. You're like, oh! Donnie rushed your eyes, kind of missed it up. He was moved. He was moved by it. I could tell you were happy. You were so expectant that maybe that would happen. Your mouths began to water a little bit, didn't it? You couldn't help it. Your endorphins kicked up a notch just expecting that sugary delicacy, right? We're not, in fact, handing out Little Debbie snacks this morning. But man, oh man, that reference sure does remind me of something that Christmas is up against, which is the whole reason we're trying to refocus. Christmas is in a battle with Mary. Not Jesus' mom, Mary, M-A-R-Y, but in the other Mary, M-E-R-R-Y. Christmas is in a contest with Mary. Do you know what Mary means? Anybody? It means happy. That's exactly right. As a matter of fact, if you look it up, this is what Google says about the word Mary. To be merry is to be happy. I wrote this from Google. Especially in a fun, festive way. Parties and celebrations are merry, and so are the fun people who attend them. That's what it said. I thought that was a weird sentence. I don't know. This old-fashioned word for happy, merry, is popular in December when people say, Merry Christmas. To be merry is to be happy, to be jaunty, and be ready to frolic. Y'all been ready to frolic lately? I don't know. Let's leave that alone. Christmas, in so many ways, has become about being happy. I mean, for starters, it's what we say to each other. I hope you have a happy Christmas. I hope your Christmas is happy. I hope your Christmas is merry. Because that's what we say, and because that's ultimately what we are after, it tends to be at Christmas exactly what we end up pursuing. We want to be happy, right? So how do we go about doing that? How do we make sure everyone's happy? Well, for starters, we get everyone a gift, right? What would make you happy? Well, what would make me happy is to get a gift. We devote energy and time and money into making someone else happy, making our loved ones happy. We list, we plan, we scrutinize, Brittany McCall, measure, brainstorm, shop, and purchase in the hopes that our efforts will bring someone just a little bump of happiness. Right, hon? That's what we do. And secretly, we hope that someone will suffer as we have suffered in order to make us happy. Don't act like y'all don't want something for Christmas. When you get older, you're always these guys. I hear it all the time. Oh, I don't want anything for Christmas. Baloney. We know you do. Because why? Because it might make you happy. For those who are curious, new gun, new flashlight, new knife, fresh socks. That's what will make me happy. Got it? New gun, new knife. New flashlight, fresh socks. Brittany says, I'm hard to buy for. Note takers, you got your notepads. New gun, new knife, new flashlight, fresh socks. Okay, we got it. If I get something other than that, that will be disappointing. Any of these things will put me in the happy column. So we buy things for each other in order to make somebody happy in the hopes that this will be a happy Christmas. The next thing we do is we plan festivities. I mean, that's what Google said. Festivities and parties. We got this shindig and the next shindig. These kind of commitments, it's going to be this kind of party. It's going to be, we're going to give gifts this way. We're going to eat this kind of food. We're going to have this kind of fun. We're going to play games. It's going to be at this location, which is pretty, that's what we do, right? We got all the things that we got to plan because what are we shooting for? Sorry, I'm getting tongue-tied this morning. We hope to be happy, right? We want to be merry. We listen to merry music. We get everything put together. The food, the meal plans. We got steak dinners over here, 12-course meal over here. We're just going to do desserts over here. We do everything we can in the hopes of being happy. And then so much of our energy is devoted to making our kids happy, right? How many things do you have planned for your kids this Christmas just in the hopes that they will be happy? Kids, look at the lights. Be happy. Strapped in the car. You know what I mean? We're going to see Santa for the third time this Christmas. Smile. Smile. Letty, please smile. Santa, he's supposed to be happy. Sorry, honey. I embarrassed her. Santa's happy. Be happy, kids. And the goal of all of this commotion, this busyness, and the dozens of other things that we do at Christmas that I don't have time to talk about is to be happy, to be merry, to have a merry Christmas. But here's the truth about happiness. Here's the truth about merry. Much like the sugar in that little Debbie Christmas tree, it's going to hit your bloodstream, and it's going to make you smile for a few minutes, and then you're going to crash. That's what's going to happen. Sugar is a short-term high, and happiness doesn't last either. Do you know why? It's because happiness only comes from temporary things. That's the truth. Happiness only comes from things that won't last. Those gifts will end up in a pile or in the bottom of a bucket where they mean nothing. Don't believe me? Just go to our toy room upstairs. I'm serious. Lots of things that were gifts, that were made us happy for a minute. Those festive feelings at parties, they will go away. And I hate to say this too, but the chances are you have a family member that's going to ruin it anyway. I mean, I'm just saying, you probably got somebody who's going to really mess it up at some point. They're going to mess up your happiness. And all of those great meals and sugary snacks are going to go straight to your hips for your New Year's resolution. That's the truth. And you won't be happy. You know what I'm saying? Lucky for us, we aren't focusing on Mary this year. We're not focusing on being happy. This year, we're focusing on celebrating Jesus' birth, right? That's what we learned last week. We're going to celebrate Jesus' birth in every single thing that means for you and me. Because here is what I believe. If somehow we can all truly understand what Jesus' birth means for you and I, then we will discover something far better, far greater than happy. Can I tell you what it is? In order to do that, though, guess what I got to do, church? That's exactly right. I got to tell you a story. If you turn in your Bibles to John chapter 5, that's where we're going to be today. I'm going to tell a little bit of this. I got to give you a bunch of background as we get going. We're going to be starting in verse 1, though. John shares with us that this story occurs as Jesus is returning to Jerusalem to celebrate a Jewish holy day. As he enters the city, he goes through a gate that is known as the sheep gate. I just think this is important to share, that this is the place where the sheep were brought into the city and headed to the temple to be sacrificed. Okay? And so Jesus comes to this gate. You think that's foreshadowing? Probably. Okay, here we go. Jesus, on that side of town, though, he visited this place called the Pool of Bethesda. I spent some time looking at this historically because I wanted you to have an opportunity to kind of draw out this scene in your mind. I wanted you to have a time. Can you open up your imaginations with me this morning? I want you to go there and I want you to see this place. Jesus goes to this place. He heads to this pool. And this is what we know about it. First off, we know that this pool was dual fed. Seems the archaeologist, I'm sorry guys, I have got something hung and it is killing me this morning. Okay. Archaeologists have proven that this was a dual-fed pool. And that means that it was being filled with a spring and an artesian well. Okay? And the artesian well is water that is coming up from the ground and it's under some pressure. This pool, in my mind, I always imagined that this pool was small and round. And I don't know why, but that's just what I see. And what I discovered is that I was wrong, which is not the first time this has happened. And this pool is actually, we learned it was long and rectangular, maybe as long as 100 yards long. And on all the sides of it, it had 5 large porches near the pool. So I guess when you imagine this pool, don't imagine something round, small and round like I've always imagined. You need to imagine a pool like you might see at a competition, or a pool like you might see at a really nice hotel. I mean, it's something like that. And it is a very long pool, and it has these 5 porches on it, around it. We believe that the water had a red tint from the minerals that existed from the spring. And it was believed at the time that this water held healing powers when it was stirred. And the superstition of the time said that an angel caused the water to swirl. But Bible scholars have agreed that most likely what caused this water to stir was pressure changes that occurred from underneath, from that artesian well, from the spring. And so the water would stir, and what people wanted to do was they wanted to get down into the pool whenever they could, whenever the water stirred. And it was believed that it would heal you or make you better. Some would say that the healing claims from this pool may be because of bathing in water at a warm temperature. It might have been a hot water that came from those springs, or it might have been that just the water and the minerals in the water made you feel better. I don't really know what that is, but I do know this. In verse 3 it says this: crowds of sick people, blind, lame, or paralyzed, lay on the porches. So this is what we're told about this pool, is apparently it was such a widespread belief that people piled around this pool from all over, sick, lame, paralyzed. Anybody was facing anything, they laid beside this pool hoping that when the water stirred, they could get in the pool. And it says that they were crowds. Do you see that? Crowds laid there. Now, I don't know what you make of the fact that many people believe that, but people believe in something, and we know that people can believe in all sorts of outlandish things. I mean, Williams Bryce is full every Saturday. You'll get it in a minute if you don't. But I think it's safe to say this. People were desperate. These people were all there, you have to understand, because they were desperate for healing. They were desperate for their situation, what they were facing in life, what they were experiencing. They were desperate to see it change. And when Jesus enters the area around this pool, we are told that Jesus' eyes lock on one man. In all of these crowds, Jesus looks at one man, and this is what we're told about him. We're told that he has been sick for 38 years. Now, I got to be honest with you, that struck me this week. Never has. I've read this story many times. It's never struck me before. This man has been sick for 38 years. Anyone want to guess why that hit me this week? Because that's exactly how old I am. I am 38 years old. So this man has been suffering, sick, desperate for the entire time I've been alive. Now, that got me, because I know how long 38 years is. Had he been struggling with this since he was born? Was he my age? Did this happen to him at some point early in his life or later on in his life, and now he's been suffering for 38 years? We don't really know, but we know that he's been suffering for 38 years, and man, that is a long time. We also know this about his sickness. Apparently, it was so debilitating, he was either struggling with paralysis, or he was so weak that he was unable to walk. That is what we know about him. And Jesus speaks to him, and Jesus says this. Look what Jesus said. First thing out of Jesus' mouth. Would you like to get well? Now, that seems kind of like a ridiculous question. Seems like, why would you? I mean, you know where he's at. You know what he's after. He's laying right here beside this pool. But Jesus, it's not ridiculous to Jesus. Jesus doesn't ask this because he doesn't know what the man is after. Jesus doesn't ask this because he's wanting to be clever. Jesus wants to draw attention immediately to the nature of this conversation. I'm here to talk to you about what you've got going on. I'm here to talk to you about your sickness. But Jesus also, I believe, wanted the man to reveal his beliefs. He wanted him to share his struggle. He wanted this man to articulate what he had going on in his heart. You with me? So Jesus asked the question, do you want to get well? He wants to see where this man is at. Verse 7, this is what the man said. He said, I can't, sir. I can't get well, sir. The sick man said, for I have no one to put me into the pool when the water bubbles up. Someone else always gets there ahead of me. Now, this is two sentences in the Bible that I believe are so telling about what this man is feeling, what it is he's going through, and the mindset that he is in right here at the moment that Jesus walks up to him. Jesus says, would you like to get well? What did the man say? Y'all say it. I can't. What does that tell us about him? He's hopeless. There you go. He's hopeless. I can't. Not, it would be nice. Yes, please. Absolutely. Duh. I mean, all of these were options. But he said, I can't. Meaning, he already knows. He already believes that where he is the end. I can't get well. I can't. Even if I wanted to, I can't. He tells us that his situation was hopeless. Next, look what he says. For I have no one to put me into the pool. Do you see this? For I have no one to put me in the pool. You know what that tells me right off? All of his eggs were in the pool. When he was asked, would you like to get well? The only thing that man could think of, the only possibility that man could think of was what? The pool. This is the only place that could possibly, this is my hope. My hope is this water that's lying feet from me. That's where my hope is. If there was any hope at all, that's where I've got to get. So you have to understand this man, he is fixated. He is focused on getting into that water. He believes that's his only chance at healing. It also tells us this. Read it. He says, for I have no one to put me in the pool when the water bubbles up. Someone else always gets there ahead of me. You know what that tells us? That tells us he's tried for a long time to make it into the water. There have been stirrings while he sat there. There have been attempts to get to the water. And there have been failures. He's been sick for 38 years. How many years has he been lying next to this pool? It also tells us this. If no one's there to help him into the pool, then the chance that anyone is there to move him someplace else, to take him back and forth home, it's probably not happening either. This man lives beside this pool. If you've never seen The Chosen, I believe The Chosen does a fantastic job with this story, and you should go watch it. But it shows this about this man, and I believe it. Getting into the well had become this man's life pursuit. But there was no one there to help him. That tells us that he was alone in this world. He had no family, no friend, no one who cared enough about him to sit there with him to wait on that water to stir and help him. If they were alive, I would assume the relationships that he had were destroyed to the point that he had to be completely on his own. It also tells us that this pool, that no one had ever looked at him and said, you know what? This guy's a complete stranger, but I'm going to post up right here next to him and help him. Apparently that hadn't happened. No one is here to help me get into the pool. This man had become a lone shadow. He was looked over, passed by, unnoticed, completely alone in this world. And not only was he invisible, but when the water stirred, people rushed past him and beat him into the water for their healing. You know what else that tells us? He'd lost race after race stirring would happen, and he would try desperately to get there, and people were stomp on top of him, crawl over top of him, push him away, push him aside to get into the water on their own. He had lost race after race, opportunity after opportunity. Imagine how dejected, imagine how rejected, how unimportant, how horrible this man felt about his life. Are you with me this morning? Yes. Jesus hears all of this in these two sentences. He knows what this man is feeling. In verse 8 it says this, Jesus told him, stand up, pick up your mat, and walk. Now this is crazy. I mean, this is insane. Jesus doesn't explain to him what I'm going to do. Jesus doesn't say, hey, here's who I am, just want to let you know. Jesus doesn't give any explanation. Jesus looks at the man, he hears his story, he says, stand up, pick up your mat, and walk. Look what happens. Verse 9, instantly, we're told, instantly, the man was healed. I'm talking about the strength came back into his limbs. The air filled up his lungs. The blood rushed through his body. Any queasiness or any problems he felt, all of that stuff was wiped away. This man stood up and he was stronger than he'd ever been. He picked up his mat and he walked away. He rolled up his sleeping mat and began walking. How do you think this man felt? Think he was happy? In an instant, this man was changed forever. Jesus arrived, right? Jesus walked up poolside, and he sees this man. In an instant, he makes this man well. When Jesus shows up, I want to tell you something. It means something. He's bringing some stuff with him. That's what we talked about last week. Jesus is bringing some stuff with him. Do you see what Jesus' arrival meant for this man? Do you see what Jesus brought with him? Can I tell you? Isaiah chapter 9. In Isaiah chapter 9, we talked about this a little bit last week. Isaiah is the prophet of God who prophesied and shared with us that the Messiah was coming. He is the one that talked about Jesus, who he was going to be, and what he was going to mean for the world. One of my favorite verses is Isaiah chapter 9, verse 2. This is what he says about Jesus. 700 years before Jesus is born, this is what he says about him. The people who walk in darkness will see a great light. For those who live in a land of deep darkness, a light will shine. Isaiah gives us a metaphor to describe what Jesus' arrival means for the world. And I think it's perfect for what happened at Bethesda. Jesus' arrival at the pool, though most likely in daytime, was a beam of light shining into the darkness of this man's existence. That's what it was. For years, this man had been and lived in darkness. Everybody with me? This man was obscured from the world, lost, lonely, and broken. He was waiting for something to change that never would. He was looking for someone to notice him that never did. He was hoping someone would show up and help him, but they never came. He just wanted to be well. He just wanted his life to change. Can you imagine how dark it was lying next to that pool every single day, knowing there's no way I'm going to get in there. There's no chance possible that I will ever be healed. His past was dark. His present was dark. His future was dark. That's what this man had. That was the life that he was in. He was living in darkness. And then Jesus showed up and the light shined on this man for the first time in decades. Do you think he just walked away happy? I don't think so. I think he walked away feeling something completely different, far exceeding happiness. I think it's what Isaiah was talking about. You know what it is? We were told about it. Luke chapter 2, verse 10. Angels show up to tell the shepherds about the birth of Jesus. And they tell us what this light is. He says, but the angel said to them, do not be afraid. I bring you good news that will cause great joy for all the people. Do you see it? Great joy for all the people. Today, in the town of David, a Savior has been born to you. He is the Messiah, the Lord. This will be a sign to you. You will find a baby wrapped in cloths and lying in a manger. This is what you need to know. This is what you need to think about this Christmas. Jesus' arrival brings joy. Last week, he brought you hope. I want to tell you something. Jesus' arrival in your life, it brings joy to you. And joy. Jesus' birth, we're told, brought great joy to earth. And not just for some of us, but for all the people. Jesus' arrival signifies that something is now available for us that we haven't experienced before, and that is joy. When Jesus shows up, he is the light in the darkness. He brings goodness into sadness. That's what he does. He brings patience into suffering. He brings relief in the midst of our pain. He replaces mourning with joy. That is what we are told in the Bible. And don't get confused, because happiness and joy are not synonyms. You hear me? They're not the same. You might think they're the same. They are not the same. Unlike happiness, joy is true satisfaction. More than once in the Bible, we are told that the joy we experience with Christ is full joy. It is complete joy. It is joy that satisfies the heart in a way that temporary happiness simply cannot. The joy that Christ offers won't leave you hungry. That's what I'm saying. It won't leave you hungry. It won't have a crash. It's not something you're going to take to the Goodwill one day when it's worn out. On the contrary, the person who experiences the joy of Christ, I want to tell you something, their celebration never ends. You know where that joy comes from? You know how it gets to be in our lives? When we get to know Jesus, I want to tell you something. We come to know Him, really, in relationship with Him. First thing He does is save us. He saves us from our darkness. And our darkness is the weight and the certain death that comes from our own sin. That's what it is. It is the separation from God that we experience, the pain that we experience, the darkness that we feel because of the sin we have in our life. And the first thing Jesus did when He came to this earth, I want to tell you something, He was here to save us from that. So when we accept that, we experience great joy. We no longer live under the blanket of that darkness. We no longer answer for any of those things. All of that now belongs to Him. So we experience great joy. But here's the beautiful part. Joy doesn't just stop with that. Joy doesn't just end there in life. You know what the Bible tells us about joy? It says we will experience joy when we let Jesus lead us. Psalms 16 verse 11 says this, says, "You will show me the way of life." You see that? You will show me the way of life, granting me the joy of your presence and the pleasures of living with you forever. When we don't know where to go, when we don't know where to turn, when we don't know what the next move is, when we're facing some sort of decision and we turn to Jesus and Jesus shows us the way, I want to tell you something. You will experience a joy like you've never experienced, just knowing that you're being led by Him, that you're doing exactly what He wants you to do. I'm telling you, there's joy in that. We will find joy when we don't have anywhere to run. When we have to literally run for our lives, when we're looking for a place of refuge. I want to tell you, Psalm chapter 5, verse 11 says this. It says, "But let all who take refuge in you rejoice. Let them sing joyful praises forever." This is the truth. Some of the darkest times of our life where we feel that the world is weighing down on us, and there's nothing we can do. There's no place to turn. I want to tell you something. When you turn to Jesus in your life, and He becomes your place of refuge, He becomes your place of protection, I want to tell you what you will feel when you are there. Joy. I cannot tell you how many times and how many stories I have heard of people who are in desperate situations, difficult situations, and they will tell you, I tell you, when I was with God, when I was sitting with Jesus and just talking to Him, I still felt joy in the midst of that. Is that right, Ronnie? I still feel joy. Even when the demons rear their heads against us. I'm talking about the enemy of all enemies. When the demons show up in our life, I want to tell you something. You can still experience joy there. A group of Jesus' followers were coming back after Jesus had sent them off. He had sent them off to do ministry and to heal in His name and do all sorts of things. They were on their way back, and this is what they said. Look at this. Luke chapter 10, verse 17 says, the 72 returned with joy. You see that? They returned with joy, saying, Lord, even the demons are subject to us in your name. These people had just went and faced demons, had just faced evil, had just faced ugly things, yet they returned with joy, saying, even the demons have to do what you say. They experienced joy after fighting ugly, evil things. This is the best thing that you need to know about Christmas. When we celebrate Christmas and we celebrate the fact that Jesus came, He brought some stuff with Him. He brought hope. But I want to tell you what He brought for you. He brought joy. He brought something in your life, I'm telling you, that you will never stop celebrating, that will never go away. Joy is something we keep no matter where we are on the journey. No matter, this might be the best day ever. You might be having the best year ever, and you're running ahead. I want to tell you something. If you've got Jesus, then you've still got that joy. But I want to tell you the coolest thing. You might be weary. You might be tired. You might be ready for a break. I want to tell you something. If you've got Jesus in your life, if He's a part of you, then you can still have that joy. It might be that you're looking at your sideline and you're saying, you know what, I'm just going to lay down over here for a while. I feel beat up. I feel like I can't go any farther. I want to tell you something. If you've got Jesus, you've got something else. You still got joy. And John chapter 16 says that it cannot be taken away from you. It can't be taken away from you. You want to celebrate Christmas the way you should? You want it to all be about Him? I want to tell you something. Focus on joy rather than happiness this Christmas. And you won't be let down. I'm telling you. Nobody can take that away from you. Nobody can take the joy that Christ brings into your life. And I want to tell you this. That's exactly what you can share with others. Because there's going to be people all around you who are trying desperately to have a happy Christmas. But you know what you could share with them? You could share a joyful Christmas with them. And you could tell them where that joy comes from. Let me pray for you. Father, thank you for each and every person that is here this morning. This is my prayer. Father, I love to be happy. I love a festivity. I love a present. I love all those things. I even love seeing Santa Claus. I love laughing. I love smiling. I love all of the things that come with Christmas, and I want all of that. I want it all this Christmas. I want to have a great time with my family. But Father, I'll tell you what I really want. I want joy. I want joy this holiday season. Joy recognizing the gift that we were given when Jesus Christ came to this earth, that we received salvation, but we received so much more than that. We received a friend that would lead us. We sent a friend that would welcome us when we needed a place of refuge, that we received a friend with power, that nothing, no matter how evil, no matter how bad, nothing could stand against Him. That's the joy I want to know that. I want to celebrate that every day of this Christmas season. And I pray this for this church. I want them to have all of that, all of the fun, all of the festivities, all of the things. I want them to have a great Christmas. But I tell you what I really want for them. I want them to experience joy. I want our attention to be on Him. God, I want to experience that joy that's never ending, that joy that is complete, that joy that is full, and that joy that can never, ever be taken away from me, no matter where I'm at, no matter what I'm facing, no matter where I'm going, and no matter what is coming. That joy that just sits there on our heart, that's what I want. That's what I want in our marriages. That's what I want for our children. That's what I want in our families, God. I pray that you will just infuse us, infuse this church, and infuse its people with joy that we share. Father, I thank you. I thank you for that. I can't think of a better gift we could ever be given than joy. Father, we love you and we thank you. I pray that everyone has a great week leading up to Christmas here, and that we all come together next Sunday and we celebrate you the way we deserve, and the way you deserve. In Jesus' name, amen. Church, I love you. Hope you have a great week, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.